What's up guys, CEO here with the first ever league content on this channel. I'm really excited to bring this to you guys, so if you could show your support and the likes and comments, I would really appreciate it. This is Season 1, Week 1 of NES, or the Nation Exhibition Syndicate. My opponent is the New York Nuzleafs, who are coached by R.I.P. Malone. I will be leaving every important link down in the description below, including a link to the Google Doc, which has like pretty much everything that you could possibly want for this league, and a link to the subreddit, which is where we're all getting together and stuff. A couple of things before I get into the match. I didn't want to make like a separate team builder just because I don't really have time to make a separate video, I guess. So if you're not interested in seeing the team that I have for this week, just go ahead and skip a couple minutes into the video. I would highly recommend you watch it though, just because some of my sets are a little interesting, I guess. So if you could just take the time, if not, I understand. So anyway, Week 1 was against the Nuzleafs. You can see their roster here. It's pretty intimidating. I was scared to death of the Serperior and figured that Seismitoad or Diggersby or Empoleon had to come, because I figured that he really wanted rocks. And Mega-Gallade's 165 attack is just stupid. But luckily I had counters for it, thankfully. So my first team builder here, so pardon if it's a little unorganized, I guess. But I really needed something to counter Mega-Gallade, even if it set up a Sword Stance, because oh, I should have probably done this earlier, but first of all, major shout-outs to SuperNerd92. He team built with me this week for a couple of hours, actually, running through a bunch of different possible scenarios and stuff, and while we didn't get everything, I feel like we actually did a good enough job prepping for stuff that I think it paid off this week. So we have Spirit Bomb the Spiritomb, Foul Play, Sucker Punch, Will-O-Wisp, and Pain Split. Like 4 minutes in, and I'm finally getting to the first mon. This is designed to OHKO Mega-Gallade, or if not OHKO, 2-hit KO. If it sets up a Sword Stance, a Foul Play just completely annihilates it. If it doesn't set up a Sword Stance and just goes for like a knockoff or something like that, a Foul Play plus Sucker Punch will take it out. And then I just put Willow and Pain Split to kind of help me with some of the other offensive threats on his team. You'd be surprised at how well Spiritomb actually takes a hit. Its HP's not that great, which is why you kind of have to invest max HP into it if you wanted to live anything. But the defense is actually very nice. So, moving on, we have Vash the Victini. This was designed basically to just kind of be a catch-all offensive mon, which is kind of what Victini is going to be most of the time from what I've gathered, I guess. I didn't want to choice it this week though, because I wanted to be able to switch up my moves, so I gave it a Colberberry to take a knockoff from Sableye. Actually, really take any offensive move from Sableye and be able to hit it back with Dazzling Gleam. Dazzling Gleam does about 60, between like 40 and 50% actually, to especially defensive Sableye. So I would at least force it to get into Recover Stall, at which point I was able to kind of, or would have been able to play around it, I guess. V-Create's there, even though it's mostly special Victini, because V-Create just kills everything. And I wanted to run Bolt Strike, but turns out that you can't actually run Bolt Strike with a level 50 Victini, because Bolt Strike is an event-only move, and the event Victini is level 100. So, I guess, other coaches, you don't really have to worry about Bolt Strike if we're staying at level 50. But these EVs make it so I'm able to pretty much OHKO or 2-hit KO anything I need to. And the base 100 stats actually makes it so I can switch into stuff a little bit easier than you might expect, I guess. Alright, moving on. This is probably one of my more surprising sets, which is why I kind of have to talk about it a little bit. During my practice, my coach kept bringing Agility Moltres against me, and at the time I really had absolutely nothing for it, and I realized that the only way I could actually fit like rock coverage on this move, or on this team, without running stealth rocks would be to run rock slide on Granbull. So to be able to have it live a hit and then OHKO everything I needed it to OHKO, I actually had to run Assault Vest, which ended up not being the worst thing in the world because I was running 4 attacks anyway, so I might as well get the special defense boost, I guess, even if I don't really have a lot of investment here. I dumped a ton into speed to be able to speed creep Empoleon. I don't think Brick Break or Earthquake would have actually OHKO'd it, but having the surprise damage on it would have been nice. And that 120 attack is cool too. And with Intimidate, I guess, as you may see later, Granbull actually takes a hit better than you might expect, and with the Assault Vest, that it takes a hit better on both sides, I guess. Alright, so then we have Melissa the Miltank. I was scared to death of Serperior, because if it got a Leaf Storm off and I didn't have a switch into it right away, it could have just done like mad work to my team. So I decided to have a cleric slash offensive presence. I wanted to actually kind of be able to take advantage. I wanted to be able to take advantage of Sap Sipper a bit and actually be able to do damage to stuff. Earthquake is on there because if he switched into Bisharp or I think it was Bisharp and Empoleon, I had a really tough time hitting those things for anything at all, and Earthquake at least does a little bit of damage. And then Milk Drink and Heal Bell, obviously, for the cleric support. Yeah. And then we have a Choice Scarfed Thunderous Therian. I, like I said, was terrified of Agility Moltres, but this team was actually pretty fast. I don't have... Okay, yeah. So, after Mega Evolving, he had 3 things that just completely outsped everything on my team, which was an issue. So, I had to bring Choice Scarf this week, with enough speed to outspeed everything normally, and a +2, a Shell Smashed Cloyster, I believe. Yeah. So I had to outspeed everything. I went ahead and just gave it max special attack. I wasn't really expecting this thing to live super long anyway, so I just wanted to be able to kind of nuke stuff when I came in. And I needed a really good special attacker, because I didn't really have one this week. And I don't think my opponent was going to plan for a special attacker that much, because I have a lot of physical attackers. So I thought I might be able to catch him off guard with both having a strong physical attacker and a Choice Scarfed one. The moveset's pretty much just for coverage. U-turns there because he had 2 ground types, and I wanted to be able to still get switch initiative. So even though Volt Switch would have obviously been a lot stronger. Oh, I'm sorry, he has 2 ground types and an Electivire, which had Motor Drive. The Motor Drive thing was what I was more scared about, I think. I could have switched if I had to, but yeah. And HP Flying is, unfortunately, Thunderous Therian's strongest flying type attack. I don't know why he doesn't get anything else, but that's okay. Grass Knot was there for set ground types, and then Thunderbolt was there to pretty much just nuke stuff once the electric immunities were out of the way. And then finally we have Mega Skrillex, the Mega Absol. Moveset's pretty basic this week, but honestly it didn't really need to be that extravagant, I guess. Jolly Max Speed outsped everything on his team if it wasn't uninvested, except for Crobat. I am just going to tell you now that I changed at the last minute. I completely lost my train of thought. At the last minute, I switched Sucker Punch to Play Rough because I was worried about the Mega-Gallade just coming in and setting up on me, I guess. And as you're unfortunately going to see, that does actually kind of matter in this battle, but that's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the battle now. How long did that take? Oh, 10 minutes. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to the battle now, and we can go ahead and get started. Alright, so first off, there's one thing glaringly wrong with this match that I'm just going to go ahead and address outright. It didn't actually end up changing the outcome of this match, but this Mega-Gallade should not actually be Mega yet. It should just be a regular Gallade with a Gallade, I guess is how you say that. It ended up kind of mattering this game, but not a ton, I guess. I just wanted to address that before we got started. So, getting into the actual match, my coach and I prepared for a team kind of like this. We prepared very heavily for the Mega-Gallade, Sableye, Moltres, and Electivire for sure. But like I said in the team builder, I was pretty certain that he was going to bring Serperior because outside of Sap Super Miltank, I didn't really have anything like to directly counter it, or that wanted to take a hit from it, more specifically. And I kind of thought Crobat might come, just because, like I said, I didn't really have a ton of answers for it. I wasn't really actually expecting Cloyster at all this week, just because I thought I had a ton of things to answer it. So I was actually kind of a little nervous to see that, because I don't want to say I didn't plan for it at all, because obviously I had answers for it, but I wasn't actually expecting it at all. Alright, is this still recording? Okay, yes it is, sorry. I'm gonna have to keep switching back and forth like that a bit, so hopefully it doesn't change things too much. Alright, so let's get started. So I decided to lead with Absol, as he decides to lead with Cloyster. Right away, I'm super fucking freaking out here, if I'm being honest, because I did not want this thing to shell smash in my face and just start, like, icicle spearing everything. Because that would have been terrifying. I was very, very close to running Snatch on Mega Absol instead of Protect this week, specifically in case I got the matchup where I was going to be in against the setup sweeper and I could steal its stat boosts. But like I said, I didn't actually expect him to bring Cloyster this week, so I decided against that. So turn 1, I'm just going to go ahead and Mega, and just go for the knockoff in case he had the White Herb or something, because I pretty much saw Shell Smash coming. It was also possible that he was some weird, like, sacrificial spikes, toxic spikes lead, which is why I didn't want to switch out. I could have switched into Thunderous Therian, I guess, and just tried to T-Bolt this thing and kill it. But as you can see, first of all, that wouldn't have mattered anyway, and second of all, yeah, I just didn't want to start getting set up on with a bunch of lead stuff. So he goes for the Ice Shard, I think predicting me to switch into Thunderous Therian there. I went for a knockoff because I expected him to switch for some reason. In hindsight, I probably should have just went ahead and made the play I made here and just switched out into Spiritomb, because it's my physically defensive wall. And even at ×2, that's still not doing a whole lot. So I go ahead and go for the Sucker Punch, get my first kill. Pretty excited about that. And Spiritomb actually matches that pretty well against a lot of his team, so there's not really a whole lot of things that want to come in here. Mega-Gallade absolutely does not. Moltres actually probably could have come in here, but he decided to just go ahead and go into Sableye. I have a couple of answers for Sableye, including Dazzling Gleam Victini, and just getting a free switch into Mega Absol pretty much whenever I want. But I went ahead and kind of tried to lure him a little bit here by just trying to go for the Willow. I wanted to kind of make him think that he was able to stay in on me a little bit more than he actually was able to. I missed, which kind of sucked, but I was kind of expecting it, I guess. So he ended up getting a free switch into Crobat. Fearing a Brave Bird, I had to go pretty much right into Thunderous, who quad resisted, by the way, which is pretty cool. And then he goes into Electivire, Like I said, I was pretty terrified of Motor Drive going into this game, so I didn't want to run Volt Switch. It actually probably would have changed the game pretty significantly if I ran Volt Switch instead of U-Turn, so I'm glad that I went for that because it allowed me to switch out against Electivire. And as you're about to see, the Scramble is just 100% hard wall to this Electivire because Intimidate goes ahead and gets rid of... I think it's Scarfed. Oops. I think it was a Scarfed Electivire because, as you're about to see, it kind of just switches out all the time, but my Gramble is just pretty much a hard wall to it at this point with Intimidate, because Power Road Punch is not doing anything. So at this point, I kind of looked to who is my least valuable member on the team, and since he didn't bring Serperior, it's definitely Miltank. I actually misplay here completely. I should have just kept milk drinking and chancing the poison, I guess, and just trying to wall this thing out a little bit more. But I got impatient and went for the body slam before I was actually able to. I don't know. There are a couple of things that I'm looking back on this game and kind of regret doing, but it's my first week, so I guess I can just learn from it a little bit more. But he doesn't have an answer for Victini at all. Like, even if he wanted to switch into Moltres right there, that would have still done ridiculous damage because V-Create is just stupidly good. And here, I actually, if I wanted to, I could have just killed the Sableye here with a Dazzling Gleam, because knockoff, foul play, whatever, like, would not have killed me here. But I remember during my team prep that basically anytime Sableye switched in, it was a absolutely free switch into Mega Absol, which is not really something that you get very often. So I wanted to take advantage of that. And here I actually I didn't have my notes open at the time, but in my notes it specifically says do not go for Swords Dance until Crobat is gone. And I guess in this instance Electivire probably needed to be gone too if it was actually Scarfed. But in my notes, I specifically have do not go for Swords Dance until Crobat's gone because it outspeeds you. I added that after I took out Sucker Punch because I obviously had no way of actually doing anything here besides just taking a Brave Bird. And at this point, I realized that, but I also didn't want my Thundurus to actually take a Brave Bird because I had a sneaking suspicion that this thing was banded. I don't actually know, so it'd be kind of nice, actually, if the Nuzleafs, if you're watching this, if you could leave your sets in the, or at least, like, what items you were in the comments below, so I could confirm that, I guess, but this is just me going off of my own instincts, and I just realized that I haven't been updating the layout because I'm trying to get better at this. Sorry. So, here, I end up just sacking Mega Absol. I'm really upset that I went for the Swords Dance there, but again, I didn't have my notes with me at the time, and I forgot that I took Sucker Punch off. I'm pretty sure a Sucker Punch actually would have been able to kill. I didn't run a calc on it or anything, but... So, free switch into Thundurus, and at this point, I actually didn't really mind him getting the speed boost from Motor Drive, because like I said, I was playing this thing like it was Scarfed, because there was no reason for me not to play it like it was Scarfed, I guess. And if it's Scarfed, it doesn't really matter anyway. So I wanted to try to go for a T-Bolt in case he tried staying in and over-predicting. Yeah, Gramble just comes in, hard walls this thing. Even with that, it's still doing enough. Another over-prediction on my part, because I thought he was going to switch into Crobat there. I don't think I had shown Rock Slide at this point, so I was just trying to catch him off guard a little bit. And since I'm able to live another Wild Charge, I decided that this would probably be a good time to just get damage off on stuff, I guess. I thought he was going to stay in there because I thought he was just going to try to do the damage that he could to this thing, but he ends up switching out, which is okay. I have just enough special defense investment to be able to live that hit and get off a pain split, which is pretty nice. And an uninvested Sucker Punch still is actually enough to hit KO this thing, but unfortunately the Fire Blast does take me out. Still not doing a very good job of updating this layout. I will get better at this as weeks go on. Sorry. But again, I get a free switch into my Scarfed Thundurus. And again, U-turn comes in handy, because if that would have been Volt Switch, that probably would have been game, honestly. Or close to it, I guess. So here I decided to reveal the Dazzling Gleam. I wanted to make him think that he could stand against me, but luckily the Culpa Berry, it wouldn't have killed me anyway, actually, because it just reduced it. But that's okay. So at this point, I know the Dazzling Gleam pretty much hits everything except for Crobat well enough to kill it. And I actually want to talk about this turn. I meant to pause the turn before, but actually I'm going to go ahead and rewind it. So, I go ahead and kill Moltres, and that's cool. And I'm like, okay, so I outspeed everything but Crobat at this point. Or I should, at least, because I calced for a regular Gallade that was holding Galladite and not a Mega-Gallade from turn 1. I actually did run the calc on this because I was pretty nervous and obviously didn't want to sack my Victini, and a V-Create to a Mega-Gallade with no defensive investment, because I don't know why you'd run defensive investment, but a Mega-Gallade with no defensive investment would have taken like 130% from a V-Create here. So I was pretty confident just to go for that. Even if he doubled into Crobat, it didn't want to take it. If he doubled into Sableye, it would have just died. So here I click V-Create because I should have killed it. It didn't occur to me until after this turn that he didn't Mega. So technically right here, I think the battle like should have been ended or whatever. But we just decided to play it out, see how it went. If I ended up losing, I guess we were going to go ahead and replay it and just see if I would have lost again. But spoilers, it didn't really end up mattering all that much. So I switched into Thundurus again because nothing on his team really like wants to take an HP flying here, and I figure he's not expecting it because Thundurus doesn't. I mean, like, it runs HP flying sometimes, but it doesn't run HP flying all the time. It normally likes the coverage elsewhere. But as you can see here, Gallade takes a ton of damage from it. Not really sure why he went for a close combat there instead of something like a Psycho Cut or something that probably could have killed me. But Gallade goes down, and in comes Sableye, who technically gets a free recover off. Oops. Gets a free recover off, but doesn't really get to take advantage of it that much, I guess. Who else is dead? Electivire, that's right. Oh, and Moltres is dead. I'm not very good at this. I thought this was going to be a little bit easier to handle than it was, but that's okay. So he gets a recover off. Here I'm actually predicting him to double into Crobat, because I figured he just wanted to get a Cross Poison off, but he actually makes a better play and goes straight for the Will-O-Wisp. And then taunts me to make sure that I don't have Heal Bell. As you'll remember from the team builder, I'm assault vested, so it didn't matter at all. So I just decided to go for the Play Rough and try to do the damage I can. Still very impressed with how much that did. Despite being burned, it's quite effective, so it still does a ton of damage. So I think I actually want to talk about this really quick. I think he actually should have just recover stalled me, to be honest. Because although I was doing 47%, like, he needed to be at a higher health than he was here. Because, as you can see, I get burned here, which doesn't actually really end up mattering. Because obviously I'm just going to launch off special attacks here. And here. Not very good at this. So I'm going to go ahead and rewind. Even though I spoiled it a little bit. But as this Crobat's coming in, if I'm anything but Scarfed, this Crobat wins, pretty much, because Crobat has 130 base speed and Thundurus Therian only has 101. My assistant coach and I didn't actually prepare for Crobat as much as we probably should have, but I kind of had a feeling it was coming, so I wanted to be able to have something that outsped it. But yeah, if I wasn't Scarfed and at the speed that I was, I'm pretty sure I would have lost this game. But instead, I got a very narrow 1-0 win. It definitely wasn't the most fluid battle, and this wasn't the most fluid recording because I am still figuring out how to fade Mons effectively, apparently. But I'm happy with it. I spent a lot of time team building because I wanted to make sure that I didn't get swept by stuff, and I feel like my assistant coach did a pretty good job of preparing me for the stuff that I wasn't necessarily expecting. I think the Nuzleafs did a good job of catching me off guard. I think we both had some questionable plays, but I think that's just going to happen when you're new to League play, honestly. But I'm pretty happy with this battle. I think I at least kind of showed a little bit that I can plan and prep and play somewhat well in this format, so I'm a little bit more hyped to go forward in future weeks. If you guys are excited for future weeks as well, please leave a like down in the comments below. Feel free to subscribe because this will be weekly content. I still don't know if I have enough time to actually do any other content at this point, but we'll figure it out later. So have a good day, guys. Bye.